Present in the virtual courtroom, we have Ms. Jones, who has her camera off because she indicated she's not feeling well. We have Mr. Gregory. We have Ms. Jones's attorney, Ms. Lowry. We have Mr. Gregory's attorney, Ms. Cardenas. We have Mr. Cooper's attorney, Mr. Barry. We have Kendra Ortega, who is the attorney for the children, and various agency workers. All right, Ms. Ortega.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Cassandra Helms.
Ms.
Thank
Ortega.
you. Thank you. Ms. Helms, you're employed with Bethany Christian Services,
Yes, ma'am.
and your role as a caseworker in this matter?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been working with the family?
The case was transferred to me on 1/10/2025.
Okay. I am going to start with the fathers in this case. There's two children, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to use initials because we're live streaming. So EG, status of his father.
Yes, I have made contact with Mr. Gregory. I did send him messages in January and February. He did just get back to me in the end of February stating he accidentally deleted my first message, but he is planning to return the homework I provided with him. I did send in my clearances to try to visit with Mr. Gregory, but I've not received those back yet. So just kind of a waiting game on that. Mr. Gregory did give me a point of contact to reach out to get that cleared. So just kind of getting the ball rolling with Mr. Gregory and engaging with him.
Okay. And are you able to reach out yet this week and see the status of those authorizations?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he's indicated that he's going to send you back the homework packet?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any services that you know of where he is residing that he's able to take part in?
I do know that he has been able to visit virtually over the phone, and we're trying to get the virtual visit set up for EG and Mr. Gregory. His mother is able to supervise those. They have quite consistent phone calls, and so I do receive updates on those. But other than that, I'm not aware of any other services.
Okay, and EG was in Mr. Gregory's care prior to the children initially coming into care?
That is my understanding.
Okay. Is there any counseling or any psych evaluations that you wish him to participate in? And if so, is he able to do that where he is?
I haven't gotten much information from the facility he's at on what services are accessible to him. I think he would benefit from counseling services. He doesn't have a barrier of emotional stability at this time, but that is something that I can inquire when I get a hold of the facility.
Okay. And your homework that you're giving him is related to just parenting skills?
I've sent him an article on how to use rewards, so a parenting skills article, and then how healthy relationships, which could pertain to his sexual abuse barrier and his parenting skills.
Okay. So you can inquire of a little further into the prison as to what they can offer to address the needs that you have listed on his plan, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And will you be able to do that within the next report period?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. As related to SC, the status of her father?
Yes, at this time, I do not have any leads on who SC's father is. I did inquire with Miss Jones on 2/18 when I met with her on who her father could be, and she stated that she did not know. I know that there is a Ashante Cooper who has been brought up. Miss Jones reported that he is not the father of SC, but that he potentially signed the birth certificate, which does not make him legal father. So at this point, I have no direction on where to go to try to locate him.
Okay. Has she ever indicated that the child is a product of assault?
No.
Okay. And you'll continue to ask Miss Jones for any information or names, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Moving on to the children, they're currently placed with EG's paternal grandmother.
That is correct.
And how is that placement going?
EG and SC do very well in this placement. They have a very strong bond with their caregiver. They've been well established there. I know they've had kind of a long-standing relationship at this point, and there's no concerns of their needs not being met.
Last time we were here, EG was not enrolled in school yet. He is now enrolled in school.
Yes, he did start at Carlton Elementary in Saginaw at the end of January on 1/29, and he is in kindergarten.
Okay. And then what about SC? Is she attending school?
She is not due to her age. She's just attending daycare, which has some structure and help her continue to build her developmental skills.
And the caregiver works full-time?
It's not, I'm not actually sure how much she works. I do know she has kind of a flex schedule. She works every other weekend. And I know her husband works 2 jobs, so I'm not sure how many hours she specifically works every week.
Okay. Do you know if SC is in daycare every day?
Is my understanding she's quite regularly in daycare, yes.
Okay. EG, is he receiving any services at this time?
Not at this time. I did inquire with Ms. Jones about getting both EG and SC into counseling services, but I've not received parental consent, so I'm not able to complete those referrals. I do think both of the children would benefit from a play therapy service.
And this was an issue that we discussed at the last hearing, wasn't it?
I was not present for that, but it is my understanding that wasn't a previous concern, yes.
Okay. And has Ms. Jones expressed any reasons why she will not consent to counseling?
She's kind of changed her response on that a little bit. At first, she stated that the kids don't need counseling. I've had further discussions with her, and she reported that she would like to wait until the kids are in her care to have them engage in those services. I did have a conversation with her to ensure that the therapist would have contact with her and make sure she's engaged in that service as well, but she still is hesitant to consent to that.
Have there been any concerns with the children? I mean, has the caregiver shared any concerns with the children that would lead to the necessity of counseling?
I think SC is one that's more kind of on the fence on what the full benefit of that would be. I think EG, there has been some behaviors. For instance, EG have currently urinated on SC's bed in the middle of the night. He's just having some behaviors like that. He initially struggled with adjusting to school, and struggling with the boundaries at school. He has definitely grown in that. I just think that with all of the things that the children have endured, especially with being removed from their mother's care, that they would benefit from a space, even temporarily, to process all the things they've been through.
Have you, or do you know if it's been discussed with Ms. Jones, these types of concerns and how counseling could be helpful for the children right now?
Yes, I have discussed with Ms. Jones that like being removed from her care is a trauma in itself for kids. And so that they, even if it's short term, it could benefit them having a space to process that, yes.
And I believe it was discussed, we discussed trauma assessments at the last hearing. Has anything been done related to trauma assessments for the children?
I have not personally done anything with that, but I can check on the status on that and when the last worker left off with that process.
Okay. Are the children up to date on their medical and dental?
Yes, ma'am. They are up to date. Their medicals were completed on 11/8/2024. Their dentals, we have to get another dental scheduled as soon as possible, due to them being removed. 1 second, my laptop wants to restart. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we are trying to get them established to have an initial, dental, and we're in the works of getting that scheduled, but their last one was completed in September of 2024. So not outdated by any means.
Okay. Are there any major dental or medical concerns with the children?
No.
And how have parenting times been going with Miss Jones and the children?
I think parenting times in general have really been a sticking point on this case. As long as I've been involved, I observed or supervised 2 parenting times for Miss Jones, and she was appropriate with the children. She brought snacks and activities for them. And I think that a big part of the parenting time concerns has been between the caregiver and Miss Jones, in their tumultuous relationship. There's been struggle for me to try to establish a schedule for parenting times. It's very typical for our agency to have a schedule that the parents see the kids on the same day every week. The caregiver has been pretty resistant to establishing a schedule. And it is a pretty big commitment for Miss Jones to be able to travel across the state to see her children. And so trying to rectify as many of those barriers as possible, because Miss Jones is appropriate with her children. she has a very strong bond with them, and trying to make sure she can see them as consistently as possible while trying to obtain services in the Grand Rapids area, such as employment, which we can talk about later. But I think that the parenting times have definitely been a large barrier since I've been on this case.
Okay, so except for the logistics of parenting time scheduling, the actual parenting times you've observed too, and that they've gone well?
Yes, they were appropriate, and then I was able to clear a fictive kin of Miss Jones who was able to provide transportation for her to supervise parenting times, and she's supervised two at this time, and those were appropriate as well. I do know that there's been a discussion about moving visits to unsupervised because Miss Jones is appropriate with her children. Yes.
Were parenting times at some point supervised by the caregiver?
Yes, when I initially took over this case, they were supervised by the caregiver, happening 2 days a week. And Miss Jones would stay overnight in Saginaw. There wasn't a verbal altercation between the caregiver and Miss Jones at a parenting time that I was called into when they were both escalated in the car with the children. At that point, we had an FTM and established that it was not in the kids' best interest to have the caregiver supervising those visits due to the tumultuous relationship between Miss Jones and the caregiver.
Can you recall what types of things were being said during that altercation?
It was a little hard to understand because Miss Jones was on the phone with someone and the caregiver was on the phone with me through the car. But I do know that Miss Jones threatened to try to crash the car of the caregiver, and to the point that the caregiver had to go home and pick up her son to help supervise the visit because Miss Jones was very escalated, which was also escalating the caregiver.
Okay. And have you asked for a report from the current fictive kin that's supervising as to how parenting times are going?
Yes, I do check in with her as visits have happened on Fridays, and she's reported that there's been no concerns. There wasn't a struggle ending a visit. A few weeks ago out in Saginaw, I created a parenting time agreement for the caregiver, the Miss Jones, and the supervisor to all sign, reporting that they would be respectful towards one another. They would start and end the visit on time, just to ensure there were any additional struggles. Ms. Jones reported that she would not be willing to sign that agreement until there was an established schedule. The caregiver did verbally sign that, and I did not hear back from the supervising fictive kin on if she agreed with that. But it does sound like the parenting time last weekend did go well.
All right. The agency had been providing transportation to Miss Jones. Is that right?
Yes, we were buying bus tickets and then providing a hotel stay, and so then Miss Jones would be able to visit 2 days in a row. It was quite a commitment for Miss Jones to be able to take the bus. That is still the plan for her on the way there, but she does have a ride that can take her back to Grand Rapids on the evening of the visits, which helps with her be able to maintain employment.
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit more? What the commitment of, well, let me see, where is she employed?
Well, she's currently putting a lot of job applications in. She currently has a dog walking position that she has that she does every single day. And with taking the Greyhound bus, she does, or Indian Trails bus, excuse me, she boards the bus around noon, and it takes a while to get to Saginaw, more than it would in a car. And then she's there for 2 hours, and then the bus only travels there once a day. So she'd have to come back the following day, and which is another time commitment based on when they are offered. The agency isn't able to transport her due to her being escalated with agency staff. And so that is no longer, our program manager said that we are no longer to transport her long distances, which has also created a barrier in those parenting times.
So to me, it sounds like the transportation, some of the issues are created by Miss Jones herself. If the agency can no longer assist with that themselves because of her behavior, is that what I'm hearing?
To a certain extent, yes. I don't think the agency necessarily needs to be there because Miss Jones is appropriate with her children, don't need to be supervising that. But yes, she has created some of her own barriers in that.
Okay, but you have two that you viewed that you say went okay, and then we have a friend of hers that is reporting they're going okay. But other than that, I mean, you think at this point there have been enough visits where she's been appropriate that you would recommend unsupervised time?
When we had our FTM, we discussed that Miss Jones would engage in consistent counseling services, and if she engaged with a certain amount of counseling services, then we would discuss unsupervised visits. And she has been consistent in engaging in counseling, and I feel that she is addressing her barriers and she is appropriate with her children. And there is no need for those to be supervised because she is very appropriate.
The agency was providing a bus pass and an overnight stay at a hotel. And it's my understanding Miss Diamond just thought that was too much of a waste of her time for those 2 full days to be gone because of the visit. Is that correct?
She did report that to me, that it was a big time constraint, yes.
Okay. But she's not actually working, correct?
She does have that dog walking position at this time, which is a daily thing.
Okay. So every day during the weekday, she's expected to dog walk, as far as you
Yes.
know?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you received confirmation of that job?
She did send me a text confirmation of that, yes.
Okay. When she sent you a text, you mean from the person she walks the dog for?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So tell the court, if you were recommending unsupervised time, what does that look like for her?
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, what would unsupervised time look like for Miss Jones?
Unsupervised time would just be unsupervised time with her children. I think there's a lot of barriers with when they would occur, where they would occur. A lot of that's a struggle right now with Miss Jones and the caregiver. That's kind of put the agency in a rock and a hard place. I'm trying to make sure they're happening and they're appropriate.
Okay. So when I say, I'll be more specific. Would they occur, would the caregiver bring the children here to Grand Rapids?
The caregiver is only willing to bring them to Grand Rapids once a month.
Okay. And then she could go to where the caregiver lives as well?
Yes, we would still provide a bus ticket, and she does have a ride back, regardless if they're supervising or not, for those to occur once a week.
Okay. All right. So we touched a little bit about Miss Jones during the parenting time discussion. Let's go through. She's currently in YWCA counseling.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is she addressing there?
Yes, I was able to provide her updated YWCA report, which does go through her goals. Let me just reference that. I don't have them specific. She is exploring the history and identifying trauma index, using cognitive processing to examine beliefs about self, others, and world to help process emotions such as regret, guilt, shame, fear, and grief. And talk about the trauma index and how these experiences alter beliefs and work to reconstruct more realistic beliefs, teach and practice grounding techniques to calm body and emotions, consult with PCP and psychiatrists for medication management, and attend YWCA support group.
Okay. And so it looks like she needs to address some trauma in her past.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then is she supposed to be addressing her emotional instability?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is there a domestic violence need for Miss Jones?
She doesn't have a barrier of domestic relations. I do know she has a history with some domestic violence, and that is why she is referred to the YWCA. I can inquire further to make sure that's an established goal with her therapist. I am also planning to reach out about her substance use and making sure that's addressed in a therapeutic setting, as Ms. Jones is diagnosed with a cannabis use disorder, moderate.
Okay. Are you drug testing Miss Jones?
Not at this time. She's pretty open about her substance use of just marijuana. The plan is for the agency to drug screen her randomly.
Okay. Well, is it expected of her that she would not be under the influence during her visits?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that can be done at the beginning of her visit?
I
For a
wouldn't be
couple
able to have
times?
the results back that quickly.
Right, but that way you could determine whether or not she is showing up for visits. You wouldn't necessarily know that visit, but something where you can gauge whether she is abstaining from THC use before her visits.
We can try to establish that. I think it might be a little tricky based on where we land on visits and where those are occurring, but I could, if the court seems it appropriate, I can screen her on a weekly basis, or have her complete screens on a weekly basis. She does know that she's not supposed to be under the influence of substances, especially while parenting her children.
Okay. Are there any others? Well, what housing services are you offering for her? That's one of the major barriers, correct?
Yes, we had a meeting with her attorney a couple weeks ago, and we heavily discussed services for housing. I do know that Ms. Jones did meet with community rebuilders last week, and she has been assigned a caseworker, and she plans to meet with that caseworker tomorrow. And she does plan to sign an ROI for me to be able to speak with that case manager as well. We discussed a lot of services. Housing is very difficult in Grand Rapids, and so making sure she's set up with the Salvation Army. We talked about Street Reach, which is a program through Pine Rest. I know that Ms. Jones inquired with me more about that service last week. I'm not sure if she was able to go out there and engage with them, check in with Ms. Jones about that. I do know that she's really working hard to try to rectify that barrier.
Okay. What seems to be the barrier for her of getting regular, reportable employment or income?
I'm not sure what's kind of not having her being able to obtain employment. I know she's putting in several applications. She sends me verification of that. So I know she is attempting to do that. I'm not sure why she's not obtaining those employments. She's not indicating that on if she's not getting interviews or if they're just going with other candidates. I did provide some options, such as there's a factory that I've had clients utilize before at Magnum Mears in Grand Rapids, or other factory jobs that could be options for her that would be stable and a good income. I'm not sure if Miss Jones has looked into that specific option.
Okay. During this report period, can you nail down if it's a criminal history or education or something that's a barrier for her?
Yes, I do know that Miss Jones did not complete high school and doesn't have her GED, so that could be a determining factor. But based on some of her employment applications, I can get more verification on that.
Have you ever explored obtaining her GED and helping her do that?
That just recently came up as something of a need. I know Miss Jones has shared that she does have a desire to figure out what she would like to do in her life long term, including education status. I know there are programs in Grand Rapids if she does desire to get her GED.
Okay. And I say that because a lot of the housing resources will sometimes, well, most all of them require the person to be employed, right? And have the ability to maintain rent on that home.
Not all programs require that. I know that like Street Reach, for instance, does help with mental health and employment. So that is a service that could help kind of with multiple barriers for Miss Jones. And so that's not necessarily a requirement.
Okay, all right. Are there any other services that Miss Jones is engaged in right now?
Not at this time.
Any other services you've identified that you're recommending for her?
I did talk with Miss Jones that when she does obtain employment and has a steady income, that we would complete a monthly budget to make sure she can meet herself and her children's needs in the future. And then just ensuring that Miss Jones is being respectful with staff and in communication so that we can work together to rectify her barriers.
Is there still somewhat of an issue with her being respectful of staff?
I think she definitely has shown some growth since I've been on this case, but it's definitely something that can create a barrier in teaming to help her rectify her barriers, yes.
Okay. What is your recommendation?
It is respectfully recommended that EG and SC remain temporary court wards and be placed in an appropriate relative, fictive kin, or licensed foster home. That the permanency goal for EG and SC remain reunification. That Ms. Jones and Mr. Gregory participate in and benefit from their treatment plans. That Ms. Jones' parenting times be supervised or unsupervised at the discretion of the agency. That Mr. Gregory's parenting times be supervised, and that this matter be reviewed in 90 days.
Are you asking for a permanency planning hearing to be set?
If the court would like that, yes, I would be in support of that.
All right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
I believe we have exhibits that you wish to
Oh,
enter.
I do. Ms. Helms, as part of your employment, you prepared some reports for the court today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, no, that would be a case service plan and a parent agency treatment plans, 2 of those.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have dates of those are dated February 14 of 2025.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you also submitted to the court the YWCA counseling report.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to admit the case service plan and parent agency treatment plans as Exhibit 1.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
No objection.
And the
Submitted.
YWCA report is Exhibit 2.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, it's submitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would it be possible, my clients just inquired if we could have a quick breakout room?
All right, it'll have to be quick though.
Yes,
All
I
right. All right, Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, just a couple of questions, Ms. Helms. As far as the concern with EG kind of having difficulties adjusting and adjusting to school schedules, so forth, isn't it true that when he was placed in the caregiver's home at the end of October, I think October 21st or around there, he did not start school until the end of January? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he had been enrolled in school with Miss Jones, and so there was a long period of several months where he was not engaged in kindergarten.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
That's correct.
And that was due to the caregiver's own doing, correct?
I'm not exactly sure, as I was not the caseworker during the majority of that. If it was the caseworker or the caregiver, I do know the caregivers have the right to enroll kids in school.
All right. So it's understandable that now he would then struggle with getting back into a kindergarten schedule, given his age and the fact that he had several months off where he was not enrolled in any kindergarten program.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And would you agree that a lot of the issues and Ms. Jones' frustration occurs when the caregiver makes kind of last minute changes to parenting times?
I would not say in all instances, but sometimes yes.
Okay. I'm looking at on the January 15th date, caregiver decided that, or I'm sorry, that date there was an issue with the hotel and whether it was set up, and the caregiver was only able to supervise 1 hour visit the next day versus the normal visit where they had several hours. And that was part of the reason that Ms. Jones was very frustrated. Last minute, no communication changes based on the caregiver. Is that your recollection from that note?
Yeah, it is my also understanding that the caregiver gives Miss Jones had given Miss Jones extended periods of time and was willing to supervise an extended visit on that Wednesday because she was only able due to her work schedule to do a shorter visit the following day. So she was willing to accommodate in that way. She is only required per policy for us to do 2 1-hour visits a week. And so she was trying to accommodate Miss Jones because of the change.
But this involves a drive on a bus to Saginaw, an overnight stay, and then, so there's just been a lot of changes. And when Miss Jones is not aware ahead of time, it still requires a lot out of her to be able to do this. And she wants to, but she wants to see her kids as much as she can if she's going to do that, correct?
I agree, and that's why I'm trying to establish that schedule so everyone is on the same page and we know what to expect. I agree, it is frustrating when things are not communicated and things change. And I think that has been a struggle with the parenting times, is not being able to establish that schedule so that everyone knows what to plan on. So I'm trying to work with everyone to be accommodating on that, but I think that there's lots of barriers with everyone wanting their expectations to be met and not trying to compromise.
Okay, thank you. And in regards to the statement about when both caregiver and Miss Jones were in the car, and there was escalation, I think on both ends, you said Miss Jones was on the phone. Did you actually hear Miss Jones say something about crashing the car, or was that reported to you by the caregiver? Like, did you actually hear her say that?
I'm trying to recall. I do know that Miss Jones was very escalated and was speaking very negatively and aggressively towards the caregiver, but on her phone call, in the presence of the caregiver. But I don't recall if I heard those specific words of she was going to crash her car.
Okay. So perhaps that was reported to you by the caregiver.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay. And would you be able to speak to Miss Jones about that specific situation and if she would have said that or ever would have made that statement with her children in the car?
I do know that Ms. Jones was very escalated to the point that it was not appropriate in front of her children. But the caregiver was also escalated. I did not know the children were in the car because I wasn't there. And when I did discover that, that's what led to that parenting time the following day being canceled because everyone was very escalated with one another.
Okay. So caregiver equally has been escalated as well in front of the children.
In that instance, yes.
All right. Okay. And so for housing, Ms. Jones is involved with community rebuilders. This was kind of a big step. She's got a meeting. She's got an assigned worker that's hopefully going to be able to provide her with housing here and very soon, at least in the next reporting period, if not sooner.
That would be the hope, yes.
Okay. All right. And you're going to follow up as far as, the steady reportable employment, but throughout the case, Ms. Jones has been able to obtain employment, Dollar General, Wendy's, there's been various things, but sometimes these are short-term and things change, but you will follow up with her if there's any other barriers in regards to obtaining other types of employment.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. She has a willingness to work, and right now she's just doing whatever she can to obtain some additional resources.
Yes, ma'am.
Through the dog walking? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And in your conversations with her counselor at the Y, does she speak positively and highly about her progress and investment?
Yes, Ms. Becker has stated that she feels that Ms. Jones is very committed. She's been consistent in attendance, and Ms. Becker feels that she's really putting forth the effort to try to grow in those sessions.
Okay. And I know you weren't here on the case before, but it sounds like Ms. Becker's a very big support and advocate for Ms. Jones in her treatment plan. And this is kind of maybe one of the first times Ms. Jones has had a good therapeutic relationship with a counselor. So perhaps looking at counseling again for the children, you can revisit that conversation with her.
Yes, I can.
All right. The issue of substance use, we have never requested drug screens of Ms. Jones. Is that correct? There's never been a reason. I mean, marijuana is legal. She's admitted to marijuana use.
I do know that historically she has completed drug screens. They've all just been positive for marijuana. I know we've had a conversation about this. You were present for that with Ms. Jones. As this was not like a barrier that was brought up to me when I received this case, but then I read her psych eval and she was diagnosed with a cannabis use disorder, moderate. And so I just want to make sure that we're monitoring that and she's addressing that in a therapeutic setting so that she is able to remain sober when parenting her children and can safely do that.
Okay. And has she indicated that she's always sober when parenting her children, or you've never had any concerns to any other effect?
I have picked her up from parenting times before and she has smelled like marijuana, but I was not sure if that was from her or from someone that she was recently around, but that has been something I've noted.
Okay. And all right, but so you think that's something that you would include as far as just with her work with Ms. Becker in the Y?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. But really counseling was one of the biggest requests the court had for her and the agency had for her in the past, obviously, besides housing, and addressing emotional stability and having someone to talk to, and she has engaged in that service. Is that correct?
Yes, she has been consistent in her engagement with that, yes.
All right. And at this point, I believe you said that she's appropriate with her children, she's providing for them. Most of the issues with parenting time aren't in regards to her parenting skills, it's the other details around parenting time.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So at this point, do you see any need? I think you said that there wasn't really any specific need to have parenting time supervised. She's appropriate with the children.
Yes, I will say that she also has indicated she was open to retaking the parenting after trauma class. So while she's appropriate, she's still willing to continue to build her parenting skills and engage in parenting classes.
Okay, great. And because of the children's placement out of county, she wouldn't be able to do something like foster care supportive visitation or any services like that, right?
Yes, that is my understanding. Most services do not work outside of Kent County.
Okay, and that's not her fault. That's just based on where the children are placed.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I don't think I have any other questions.
Thank you. Ms. Cardenas?
Thank you. In regard to Mr. Gregory, my understanding is he actually has requested therapy for EG. Is that
Okay.
correct?
I don't recall him telling me that, but I can always have him consent to therapy, yes.
Okay, so you're willing to get the consent through him?
I would have to mail him the forms and he'd have to mail them back, so I'm not sure. I know every facility is a little different with how mail works. I'm not sure if I would be able to get his verbal consent on that to complete that. I'd have to kind of look and see how we could get that established.
All right, thank you.
I object.
And again, in reviewing, if you were to review the case, to your information, is Mr. Gregory involved in services that are available to him at the prison?
Not that I recall, but I'm more than happy to discuss that further with him. The one message I did receive from him, he did not indicate that.
Okay. Have you had any phone calls with him?
Not official phone calls. I know I was at the home with the previous worker and he had called his mother, so I had briefly spoken to him on the phone. I have met Mr. Gregory actually. I did intake with the previous worker when he was at Kent County Jail. So we have met briefly, but since being the caseworker, I've not had an official phone call with him, no.
Okay. But if he indicated on December 9th that he was working the services available to him to the previous caseworker, you can also follow up with the prison in regards to what's available
Yes, ma'am.
and what he's already working on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then in regards to the caregiver, this is somebody that had the children previously throughout the case, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have no concerns for those children being placed there?
Their safety and well-being, no.
Okay. And just as, there does seem to be concerns when the caregiver is supervising, but there's been concerns pretty much when anybody's supervising these parenting times. Not issues with the children, but more issues between the mother and whoever's supervising.
I've had no concerns with Miss Jones when I've supervised visits.
Okay. How about when the previous caseworker was?
I do know there were notes of there being struggles, yes, with the previous caseworker.
Okay. And then there was even a time with this, I thought, with the secondary relative.
I'm not aware who that would be.
The other person that was supervising besides the caregiver, this third party.
Oh, there was an instance in ending that parenting time, yes, but nothing during the visit, no.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Barry?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ortega, any follow-up?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Lowry, any follow-up?
Just one follow-up. You would still need Miss Jones's permission or court order in order to get counseling for the children.
I would just
Is
need
that-
consent from one parent.
Okay, even if, all right, okay, thank you.
Any follow-up, Ms. Cardenas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barry?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Ortega?
No, Your Honor.
Any additional witnesses or
Yes.
evidence? Ms.
Yes,
Ortega?
yes,
M-
yes.
Ms.
we're
Jones, this
objecting.
is not a time for you to speak. Ms.
But I'm
Ortega?
speaking because I have something to say.
Ms. Jones, this is not the time for you to speak. You have an attorney. Ms. Ortega, let's see. Did you answer? Did you have
Do
any
I have
other
full
additional
custody of my
witnesses?
children? Is a cus-
Ms.
is a,
Ms.
I already
Ms.
asked my
Jones,
lawyer to
Ms.
act, and she ain't
Jones,
say
I
that.
am going
She
to
don't
have
say
to
that.
put you in the waiting room because you are disrupting the
Then I
hearing.
just
All right. Ms.
Your
Ortega.
Honor, I do not have any witnesses or exhibits. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lowry, any witnesses or exhibits?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Cardenas, any witnesses or exhibits?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barry?
No,
Any
Your Honor.
witnesses or exhibits? Okay, statements. Ms. Ortega.
Thank you, Your Honor. I understand that there are times when Miss Jones can be appropriate. She can pull herself together. I do understand she also loves her children. That comes through from everybody in the case and from my times in FTMs. However, I think at this time there's still a lot of work to do. I appreciate that she's going to counseling. I do believe that the therapist client relationship with her new counselor is very good for her. But what I only see on this report 4 completed counseling sessions from December 31 until the end of January. I don't think that's enough to say unsupervised is okay at this time, as far as parenting time goes. However, I acknowledge a struggle. If there's a struggle with getting a certain schedule down, I would be frustrated as well if I was a parent. I do think the caregiver does a great job with the children, but she's also going to have to realize that she's doing this and it's part of a global plan, and she's going to have to make some concessions on her end to make sure Miss Jones can have some meaningful time with the children. And it looks like probably a little more structured time as far as supervision goes. So I would ask that the court order that at least one parenting time occurs in Grand Rapids each month. And I think that the caregiver is going to have to get on board, or else I could see the agency asking for placement change here to Grand Rapids. I don't like that for the children. I don't want to uproot them from family. I think that would be a tough call anyway, because they are placed with family. They're placed with family that cares for them, and loves them, and they know. So I don't necessarily think that's good for the children, but I also don't think it's good for the children to experience, they have to see the struggle between the caregiver and the parent. And that's not good for them either. And so I don't agree that supervised or unsupervised parenting time is appropriate at this time, especially given even the conduct of Ms. Jones today. I think she's still doing a lot of blame shifting of the problems and the issues. She's saying, you know, that the agency's going so far to give her a hotel overnight there, and it's just taking up too much of her time. Yet she's not really working a job during the week. I mean, the dog walking, I would think maybe there could be a sub for a Wednesday and Thursday or whatever days they're looking at. It's my understanding there was a schedule. It just didn't fit Miss Jones. And so they couldn't agree on a schedule. And I think Miss Helms kind of came back around to that, is that neither party, there was schedules offered, but they were declined by Miss Jones. Miss Jones wants it a certain way, and the caregiver's not available during that time. And so, but I do think it needs to occur. Definitely does, and it's not fair to Miss Jones to not have a set schedule. So I would ask the court to encourage the caregiver to be consistent with a schedule. Otherwise, you know, a change of placement could be looming. And I do think, I understand marijuana is legal, so is alcohol. And so when somebody is diagnosed with an alcohol use disorder, we monitor that a little better, because if there is an actual disorder, it can affect the parenting. And I would not be surprised if some of the behaviors may be affected by use, and that it is occurring before parenting times. And so I would ask, you know, that there be a couple of times that she's tested prior to parenting time to make sure she's showing up sober for these things, because what we can't do is return the children home to somebody that has a substance use disorder. And marijuana is still puts somebody's mind under the influence. And so depending on how high the levels are, I mean, I think we can look at that. If they're lower levels, if they're not, you know, that everybody can opine that it's not affecting her actual parenting, then, you know, we don't need to know that. We can stop testing because it is legal. But I think that since it is a marked need, that there needs to be some sort of baseline here. And I would agree that needs to be addressed in counseling as well. So I appreciate Ms. Helms reaching out to the therapist to see if they can address that use and see if there's some other alternative for Ms. Jones. And I would ask that the court today order that at least the older child EG is immediately enrolled in counseling. It doesn't sound like at this point that SC has as much of a need. She's also younger, and I don't know how effective play therapy would be. But for EG, I definitely think that that's necessary. It concerns me that Miss Jones does not, bedwetting aside, adjustment to school aside, the children watched their mom get arrested before they were removed this time. EG's father is incarcerated. There's enough trauma markings there that counseling would be good for him. But for her not to see that, it makes me very concerned about her progress. And so I would ask the court to continue supervised parenting time, but order at least one happen in Grand Rapids, that EG begins counseling as soon as he can, and that the court review this in 90 days under permanency planning hearing. And I believe that was all my requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, overall, I think the recommendations are appropriate. I do think the testimony today was that Ms. Jones is appropriate with her children, and most of our issues come with scheduling. They had agreed on a Friday schedule, and the caregiver is the one that does not want to give up every Friday. So now that EG's in school, it seemed to make sense that Friday afternoon would be great, but it's a caregiver issue, and it continues to go, admittedly, both ways. But I think there's as much on that end, and it's very frustrating for Miss Jones because this is her trying to get her children back, and so I think when things come up like counseling, and she's able to kind of take on some decision making, I think that those are the things she grasps onto. I don't think she's completely against it, but if you look at the fact that the caregiver did not enroll EG in school, he was in kindergarten and then out of school for several months. I mean, if we had parents doing this, we would have concerns about this. Now he's having problems adjusting. I don't think that makes that, I think that we probably all can see that that would cause issues, that in and of itself. Ms. Jones, I think, was upset because she has full custody, and so she doesn't understand why Mr. Jones, who's incarcerated, would be able to make some of those decisions for her child. So that was why she was upset. And she is working hard. Counseling was what everybody wanted her to do. She's gotten a counselor. She's engaged in the counselor. I understand we only have a report. We're missing a 1 month's report, so we have a whole nother month of February that's completed. I think the verbal report from Ms. Helms is that she's been consistent. I know her counselor was at her FTM advocating for her, so we do have another month. I would assume that's another four sessions if she's attending weekly, maybe even 5 at this point. And so that's several months of engagement and consistent counseling. And if there's not a reason based on her appropriateness with the children, she should be able to have unsupervised parenting time. I believe that that might resolve some issues because hopefully she could have longer periods of time because it's going to take less resources. But so I would at least ask for that or discretion for the agency to allow that. But I do think it's appropriate, and we're making strides in housing. And I think Ms. Jones has been upfront about marijuana use, just, recreational use. I understand the concern, but obviously marijuana does stay in your system. So I don't know how, if it's never been addressed as it has to actually affect your parenting in order for it to be an issue. And I don't think that there's been anyone that has said that that's affecting her parenting. Thank you.
Ms. Cardenas.
Thank you. My client has previously asked for his child to be in counseling. He thinks it to be in his best interest, and he's willing to help to assist to get that done. Outside of that, I think that just addressing the change of placement for relative for parenting times. I mean, these children have lived a significant part of their lives with this relative. This relative has bent over backwards to take care of these 2 children who are her grandkids, and she wants to. She also works like every other weekends, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, 3rd shifts. Like she has an unusual schedule that she's been trying to work with to set these parenting times up. So maybe it needs to be put on the agency to do the transportation and the supervision, considering if that's the issue. I mean, this caregiver is taking care of these 2 kids. I think changing the placement would obviously not be in their best interest. And then just to kind of point out again, like the caregiver did what she needed to do. She called the caseworker when Miss Jones and the children are in her car. Miss Jones is getting very escalated with somebody else on the phone. Caregiver did call the caseworker kind of for guidance. So I think that actually was the appropriate move. Thank you.
Mr. Berry.
Recommendations.
No statement, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. The court finds that the lower guard ad litem has complied with the requirements of the statute. That returning either of these children to a parent today would cause a substantial risk of harm to the children's life, physical health, or mental well-being. And that's based on the evidence regarding the progress that each of these parents has made regarding their barriers. that reasonable efforts were made to preserve and unify the family and make it possible for these children to safely return home. That in accordance with the statute, progress towards alleviating or mitigating the conditions that cause the children to be placed or remain in temporary foster care has not been made by any of the parents. That the children's continued placement is necessary and appropriate and is meeting each of their individual needs. That the needs of these children can be met in a foster family home. The siblings are in joint placement. The court orders that the children continue in the protective and temporary custody of the court, continue the placement with the Department for Care and Supervision. That the adjudicated respondents comply with and benefit from the case service plan. That parents sign any and all necessary releases. That parenting time of Mr. Gregory is supervised until further order of the court. That parenting time of Ms. Jones is at the discretion of the agency to allow unsupervised or supervised parenting time by its designee. That the agency immediately enroll both of these children in counseling. These children have had a lot of trauma during this case, including watching their mother be arrested. They really should have been in counseling long before now, but certainly I have no hesitation in ordering it at this point. Continue the attorneys in this matter. And Ms. Gibson, do you have a date for the next hearing, which will be a permanency planning hearing? Because at that point, these children will have been in care for 15 of the last 22 months.
Yes, Your Honor, we're gonna have to go a little earlier than 3 months. I have May 13th from 11 to 12.
Any conflicts with that date or time? Okay, I'm not hearing any, not seeing anybody shaking their heads. So May 13th from 11 till noon, we will see you then. Virtual courtroom. We have Mother, Ms. Jones. And Ms. Jones, if you would turn your video on, I would appreciate it. We have her attorney, Ms. Lowry. We have Father Eddie Gregory, his attorney, Stephanie Cardenas. We have Ms. Tompkins for attorney Matt Berry, representing the unknown father of SC. Attorney Kendra Ortega, who represents the children, various agency workers, foster parent, and I think that's everyone. All right, Ms. Ortega.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Cassandra Helms. Part of your employment, you've prepared reports and submitted those to the court today.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit 2 exhibits. The first would be the USP and 2 PATPs dated April 22nd, 2025. And the second are 2 YWCA reports.
Any objection?
No objection. No objection.
All right, thank you. They're admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Helms, I'm actually going to start with the fathers this morning. Let's start with Mr. Gregory. He's the father of EG.
Yes, ma'am.
And he's currently incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know when his expected release date is?
I don't know the exact date, but he is set to be released in 2027.
All right. And what services is he being offered?
Yes, I personally send Mr. Gregory homework monthly and have him engage in that way. He is engaging in services at his facility. He's in a couple of groups right now that he's engaging in. He's planning to send me certificates of once he completes those courses, but he is fully engaging in those. And he has phone calls with his son, EG, on a near daily basis, and he's able to start in-person visits with EG during this reporting period, and they've had a few visits which have gone well. All of his contact is supervised by the relative.
Okay, and that's the relative foster parent?
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned some classes. Do you know what types of classes those are?
Yes, they include a life skills class, a course on or a group for Sex Addicts Anonymous, and then there's another one entitled Beat the Streets. And I've sent articles to Mr. Gregory regarding how to use rewards, keys to secure attachments, and trauma. An article about trauma.
Okay. Is he sending the homework back to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you identified any other needs for him at this time?
Not at this time. It seems that Mr. Gregory has really done well in engaging in the services that his facility offers, and he engages well with me and engages with Eddie the best that he can.
And communications between him and EG have been appropriate to your knowledge?
Yes, I have actually been with EG a couple of times when they've had phone calls during home visits I've had, and that's been appropriate. So I've had that experience of of witnessing those as well.
And do they seem to have a strong bond?
Very much so.
Any other services that you think Mr. Gregory could benefit from?
Not at this time.
Thank you. And then the father for SC is still unknown?
Yes, ma'am. I have asked Ms. Jones for any leads on who SC's father could be. She has not indicated, and there's no way for me to try to locate him.
Okay. And so no names have been given yet?
The only one that was given was Ashante, but there's no contact information and no way to be able to have contact with him.
Okay. You can continue to ask Ms. Jones if she has any updates in that area.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We'll move on to the children. EG is attending school this year.
Yes, ma'am.
And have you been able to verify if his attendance is good?
I have not gotten an official attendance report, but I know he does attend on a daily basis and he's doing well. He has had a couple of incidences of getting in trouble based on not sitting still in class and not paying attention to his teacher. But he has been able to have conversations with his teacher and caregiver and redirected that behavior. So that's not an ongoing concern.
Are you aware if he is up to date on his medical and dental visits?
Yes, he's up to date on both. He does have a follow-up with dental appointment coming up in the next couple of weeks, but no medical concerns at this time.
Okay. And do you know if this information is shared with Ms. Jones?
Yes, she was able to attend the dental appointment, the last dental appointment that he engaged in over the phone. So she was able to engage in that way.
Okay, thank you. Is EG in counseling? I know last time we were here, there was counseling ordered for the children, or at least him.
Yes, he was able to start in April. So he has had 2 appointments at this time. He does have another one scheduled for the beginning of June. So really trying to start that relationship and build that rapport between EG and his counselor, but thus far they've been going well.
Do you know if those are in person or held virtually?
They are in person.
All right. And since there's only been 2 appointments, did you get any sort of report from that counselor yet, other than just gaining rapport?
Not at this time.
Okay. What about for SC? Was there any counseling services set up for her?
So SC, there has been some difficulty in getting her into counseling services. There's limited resources in Saginaw where the children are placed that will take her age because she's only 4. We were able to locate the place that EG started at, also would be able to take SC. However, they don't take her insurance. She has a different insurance plan than EG. So she is up for eligibility to have that switched in June. I'm hoping to get funding approved for her to start before then. They just changed our funding approval process with WMPC, but I'm hoping to have that funded so she can get started as soon as possible.
Okay. For EG, any other services that he's being provided at this time?
Not at this time.
And do you know if he's involved in any sort of extracurricular activities?
He has friends that he talks about. He was actually talking with me last week about how he wants to go to a friend's house. He does engages in the community and age appropriate activities.
Okay. Moving to SC, is she up to date on her medical and dental?
Yes, ma'am.
And is she in school at all, or is she still just attending daycare?
She attends daycare, which does have some structure, and she's very much developmentally on track. So there are no concerns there.
There's some sort of educational component in the daycare she attends?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. And we talked about her counseling. Does she have any other services that the agency's identified that she needs?
Not at this time.
Okay. Does she as well engage with friends in the community?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you know if the family has done any sort of special outings or things with the children, the foster family?
Nothing like specific. I know the foster family did go to Arkansas during this reporting period, but there was not consent for EG and SC to be able to go to that. They were able to stay with a foster family in the Grand Rapids area. So they weren't able to engage in that activity. Other than that, nothing specific. They do come and visit with relatives, Mr. Gregory's relatives, once a month. So they are able to engage in that.
And you did ask Miss Jones for consent well before the trip?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, and she would not consent?
Yes, she did indicate a few days before they were supposed to leave that she would be willing to consent, but at that time it was too late for them to participate in that trip due to plane tickets being bought and not being able to add them at that point.
Okay, and then they stayed with a foster care home in the Grand Rapids area?
Yes, ma'am.
And then they do there have been parenting times in the Grand Rapids area over the past 3 months, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So they're doing some traveling on the weekends to do that.
Yes.
Any other services that you can identify for SC at this time?
Not at this time.
We will move on to Miss Jones. Currently, what services is Miss Jones participating in?
She is engaging in counseling through the YWCA with Ms. Cami Becker. She is overall consistent in engaging in that service and has good rapport with Ms. Becker. Ms. Jones has been engaging in parenting times. While that has been a little inconsistent during this reporting period for several reasons, she does engage with those pretty regularly. Those are her main services at this time. Oh, excuse me. She is also engaging with her housing advocate through Community Rebuilders.
Okay. She's been offered some more support in the parenting time. Is that correct?
Yes, there have been lots of discussions regarding family times during this reporting period to ensure that they are happening and they're being appropriate. So Ms. Jones was offered, there was a referral made for supportive visitation through DA Blodgett. And Ms. Jones was initially on board with engaging in that program when we had an FTM to discuss it. But once the referral was made and they connected with Ms. Jones, she indicated she was not open to engaging in that program and did not feel like it was necessary for her.
Okay. And part of engaging in that program would have opened up some more time for her to have parenting time, correct?
Yes, the hope with that program would be so that they could have an additional visit on a Saturday as the agency isn't able to assist with weekend family times. But since that service is not, Ms. Jones is not willing to engage in that service is not able to be offered.
Okay. And there was not a reason of like work or something that would conflict with the Saturday time, correct?
Correct.
Do you know if Ms. Jones is employed right now?
When I met with Ms. Jones yesterday, she indicated she's not currently walking dogs that she was previously. She does have, she has applied to some places such as McDonald's and sent me different applications during this reporting period, but has not been able to obtain any employment. She did indicate yesterday she has an interview today for a caregiving position. She's very hopeful that she will secure that employment and have that ongoing.
Okay. And when's the last time she's provided proof of any type of an employment to you?
I don't recall the specific date. I would guess it was April.
Okay. And when is the last time you've asked her for some proof of employment?
I check in with Ms. Jones quite regularly on if she's obtained employment, especially when we met last month after she had an interview at McDonald's, and I have followed up with her a few times to see if she obtained that employment, and Ms. Jones had told me I was being nosy and that was not my business, and she will update me when she does obtain employment.
And I go through that to lead into, there have been several issues and complications with parenting time over the last reporting period. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And employment has been sporadic through the last reporting period?
Yes, ma'am.
And so essentially, the agency tried to come up with several different plans for Ms. Jones with several different times. Is that fair?
Yes, ma'am.
And it appears that Ms. Jones' schedule should have been flexible enough to accommodate any of the requests, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right now, just to review for the court, the children are placed in Saginaw.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And there has been sort of a resistance from Ms. Jones going to Saginaw and doing parenting time.
Yes, ma'am.
And she wants the kids to come here every week, correct? To Grand Rapids?
Correct.
Okay. And at one point during this reporting period, the plan was to do weekly visits in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, that is the current plan, yes.
Can you share, since there have been several, can you share a couple of incidents where parenting times were scheduled and what kind of issues disrupted that parenting time?
Yes, for a brief overview, we did move to unsupervised visits on 3/7, and there were 3 weeks of unsupervised family times. On 3/21 was the last unsupervised parenting time that occurred in Saginaw, but at that family time, the police had to be called due to Miss Jones not being willing to give the children back to the caregiver. So there was police involvement. And so after that, we did move back to supervised parenting times. Since then, we've only been having the agency supervise those parenting times just to ensure safety for everyone. There was an incident. I'm trying to look at my notes here. On 4/17, there wasn't a parenting time that weekend due to Miss Jones not having communication with the agency. The following week, we were going to have Miss Jones' mother supervise the family time. Miss Jones was escalated to the point that we didn't feel like it was going to be safe or appropriate for the children. And so those were canceled. And then on 5/2, visits were canceled due to Miss Jones reporting she would only engage in a family time if it was unsupervised. It did occur last week, Friday. The agency supervised, and it was at the agency for 2 hours.
Because you told Jessica
Yes.
that I did not want to participate. And I did not tell you that. You did not hear that out of my mouth. I told you to talk to my
Miss
attorney,
Jones,
and
Miss
you
Jones,
wanted
this
to
is
know
not
that.
appropriate.
Thank you.
Ms. Helms.
And so those are just a few examples.
Okay, let's talk about the most recent one at the agency, and that was Friday, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, was that for an hour?
It was for 2 hours. The plan right now is because the children are coming into town to do 2 hours on Fridays from 4:30 to 6:30. And then they are brought back to meet the caregiver halfway to go home.
Okay, and is that every week at this point?
At this time, that is the scheduled plan, yes.
Right. And then once the children, or at least EG, is out of school, you could make those earlier in the day?
That would be the hope, yes.
Okay. So the needs that are still remaining here, looks like housing is still a need, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then employment and consistent employment would also still be a
Sorry,
barrier.
but housing is not a
Yes,
need.
ma'am.
I'm waiting on
Miss
2
Jones,
documents
Miss
and a
Jones, Miss Jones, if you continue to interrupt, I will remove you.
Well,
This is
then
not
remove me.
It's not appropriate, ma'am. You
If
have
I
an
can't
attorney.
survive,
You
I'm
have
not
an
gonna listen
attorney.
to lies.
All right, I'm going to put you in the waiting room. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe you only are half done. The employment, the inconsistency employment, that's another barrier.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then finally, the biggest barrier that at least I would identify, I don't know if the agency identifies, is the emotional instability. Is that fair to say?
I would say yes, that is Miss Jones' biggest need right now because it plays a role into all of her other barriers as well.
Okay. And so to address that, she's in counseling at the YWCA, is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you know if Miss Jones have any diagnoses that require medication?
Not that I am aware of. However, I did have a pretty extensive conversation with her therapist last week to make sure she is aware of the struggles of emotional stability that the agency and the caregiver is even enduring. I know that Ms. Miss Jones's therapist is requesting that she engage in DBT counseling in addition to the counseling she's already engaging in, and additionally have a psychiatric consult.
Okay. And does Miss Jones know about these recommendations from her counselor?
Yes, we did discuss them yesterday during our meeting. She did indicate during that meeting she was not open to engaging in those services. However, afterwards, she did meet with her counselor, and her counselor indicated she was willing to engage in the DBT services and has a medical appointment scheduled for Wednesday.
Okay. And so at this point, we don't know if there could be some prescribed medication that would help with regulation of her emotions.
That is correct.
Okay. And a lot of the issues in this case well, at this point, the foster parent is not in a position where she can coordinate visits or supervise visits of Miss Jones, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was also conflict when attempting to have Miss Jones' own mother supervise some visitation, right?
That is correct.
Okay. What do you believe there's still a substantial risk of harm if the children were replaced back with Miss Jones today?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are the recommendations today? I do believe it is a PPH scheduled for today.
Yes, it is respectfully recommended that EG and SC remain temporary court wards and be placed with an appropriate relative, fictive kin, or licensed foster home, that the permanency goal for EG and SC remain reunification, that Ms. Jones and Mr. Gregory participate in and benefit from their treatment plans, that Ms. Jones' family times be supervised or unsupervised at the discretion of the agency, that Mr. Gregory's family times be supervised, and that this matter be reviewed in 90 days as another PPH.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, so Ms. Jones has a pretty good relationship with Ms. Becker as far as them being able to kind of communicate and her offer suggestions, and Ms. Jones is willing to kind of discuss those further. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Just to indicate that when I did put Ms. Jones in the waiting room, she left. So I just wanted you to know that, Ms. Lowry.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just to follow up. So Ms. Jones and Ms. Becker have a pretty good relationship, and Ms. Jones is pretty receptive to her counselor's suggestions versus sometimes when they come in different forms. So would you agree with that?
I would say yes. Ms. Jones does indicate that her therapist is a strong support for her, and she does have a good relationship with her.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like the very recent, as in yesterday, suggestions for DBT, as well as looking into maybe a medical or psychiatric appointment, are something that Ms. Jones is open to now that she's had more information and discussed it with Ms. Becker.
That is my understanding, yes.
All right. Okay. And as far as I know, housing was something Ms. Jones wanted to bring up. Can you kind of give the court a little bit more details as far as where she's at with working with her housing advocate? Because I know we all have lots of clients that work with housing advocates and we don't necessarily see results, but I think she's moving through the process. Can you just give an update as far as that?
Yes, she has been working with community rebuilders for quite some time. She actually transferred programs, so that was a bit better fit for her. So I do have contact with that community rebuilders advocate. The plan right now is Miss Jones needs to get her birth certificate and a copy of EG's social security card so that final housing paperwork can be submitted. I am hoping to get a more detailed update from Miss it's Miss Chaplin from Community Rebuilders. Miss Jones can be resistant on giving me details, and she feels I'm being nosy, and I try to explain to her that I'm just trying to advocate at the court and what she is engaging in hopes to support her.
Okay, but she's signed releases so that you can communicate with all of the service providers directly?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and it sounds like through the transferred program, there's a specific housing complex that's been identified that kind of once all her paperwork's ready, that would be what they would be looking at. I believe, was it in Kentwood, perhaps?
Not
sure.
I know it's Breton area, so I believe it's my understanding the program has a specific like apartment complex that they would be able to utilize. So yes.
Okay. So she's at least making progress versus just being on a list somewhere. It's just a matter of getting her birth certificate, which I believe she filled out the application with the agency yesterday, and you guys were going to mail that for her. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, great. And then just getting EG's social security card, a copy of that, and a plan's been made for that as well.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So there is a potential once these kind of paperwork details are in place that housing could move quicker than it has in the past.
I can't give a specific timeline. I've never worked with this specific program before, so I'm not sure if that will move quite quickly. I would hope it would, but yeah, I can't give a specific timeline on that.
Okay. All right. And employment, at least during the last reporting period, there were periods of time where Miss Jones was employed through Variable. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Like an app where she can pick up shifts for a day or so forth when they're available?
Yes, she was inconsistent on sending me when she was picking up those shifts or verification of that, but she was reporting that to me, yes.
Okay, and at some point you did receive verification of that?
I believe on one instance, yes.
All right. And then has she indicated why she was unable to continue with that program? As far as where the jobs were being located?
Oh, yeah, she did indicate yesterday that there was, they were located in Muskegon, and I don't recall the other location, but it was farther out, and due to her transportation situation, it was difficult for her to engage in that.
Okay. But she has had other interviews and at this point is making attempts to obtain employment.
Yes, she has not always sent me her applications, but yes, she has been reporting to me that she is applying for employment positions.
Okay. All right. And as soon as she obtains a job, she will let you know is what she's reported, correct?
Yes, that is what she's reported.
All right. As far as the parenting times, the visit that was going to occur in Grand Rapids with Ms. Jones's mother, excuse me, that was going to be canceled due to a flooding at an apartment, correct? At her mother's home?
Yeah, so what happened during that incident was the plan was for there to be a visit on 4/25 and 4/26. The agency was going to help transport them to those as the children were in town that weekend. On that 4/25 in the morning, I was updated that there was a water main break at Miss Jones's mother's home, and so she had to be at the apartment and could not supervise the parenting time that evening. That we would still plan to have a 2-hour visit the following day in the community so that those could occur. Miss Jones was very escalated to the point of harassing her mother, and she did not feel comfortable to supervise those parenting times at that point. Nor did I feel like Miss Jones was in a stable place for those to be positive encounters with the children, so they were canceled. Yes.
But so the Friday visit was going to be canceled either way due to the water main break, correct?
There
It
was
just
discussions about it happening in the community, but at that point, Miss Jones was escalated to the point that it didn't deem to be appropriate.
okay. So, and she was obviously upset. She was expecting to have a visit that day, and wasn't anyone's fault, but the water main break occurred, and she was no longer going to be able to have a visit.
Correct. And it was explained to Miss Jones that no one planned that. Sometimes that happens in life. Things come up and we need to adapt a plan. And Miss Jones really struggles with there being any changes. And I think that is a large barrier in this case is her adaptability when things come up that are unavoidable.
Okay. So there had been a lot of issues with trying to get parenting time scheduled, with having her go to Saginaw and how those would look, correct?
Correct.
And so the plan has been for the visits to move back to Grand Rapids.
Yes, so the agency can supervise, yes.
Okay. Was it did you start to feel as though having the children placed so far away from their mother was causing any issues with being able to achieve reunification efforts and maintain those parenting times?
With specifically looking at parenting times, I think there are barriers with them being in Saginaw and AG being in school just because it limits our options for those to occur. However, I don't feel like that is enough reason to indicate a move being necessary.
Okay. But Ms. Jones has made requests to look at relatives and placements closer in Grand Rapids.
Correct.
All right. And has the agency made attempts to locate any possible relatives in the Grand Rapids area for placement?
There was one fictive kin that Miss Jones offered to us as a name, but she was not living in Grand Rapids, and I have not received an update that she has moved to Grand Rapids. So at this time, she hasn't been explored.
All right. And you'll continue to look for any relatives that are closer if there's any further requests or issues?
At this time, I don't feel like it would be appropriate to move them based on their placement stability. However, if it becomes a need in the future, we can explore more options.
Okay. Well, some of the, at least in the treatment plan, it seems that there's also some emotional frustration on the part of the caregiver as far as text messages, phone calls with the agency, correct, as well?
At times, yes.
All right. So while Miss Jones is frustrated with the changes in schedules and her options for seeing her children, and sometimes this comes out in emotional responses to the agency, you're also observing that from the caregiver at times.
I wouldn't say to the same extent, but yes.
All right. All right. But it seems like now there's a better plan in place with the visits taking place in Grand Rapids.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Miss Jones had previously, I was trying to go back, but my file is very large, completed parenting time classes, correct? Like supportive visitation in the past.
I'm not sure if she completed that specific program. I know she engaged in the parenting after trauma class. And she was unsuccessfully discharged from the parenting time specialist program, was my understanding.
All right. And I guess I'm referring, the specific time frame was prior to her children being returned to her care last year. All right. So when she is able to have the parenting times with her children, is she appropriate with them? Are they bonded to their mother?
I've observed that she has a stronger bond with SC than EG. For instance, at the visit last week, Friday, Miss Jones didn't engage with EG for around 20 minutes, where she just solely engaged with SC. So I do think that Miss Jones would benefit from some parenting supports and to build those skills, so she can especially build her bond with EG. I know she just has a more strained bond with EG based on the limited time she's had him in her care. I know that EG lived with his father for a majority of his life, so that bond just is not as strong between Miss Jones and EG.
Are the children upset when they are unable to visit with their mother?
I know they are upset. I know especially SC gets very upset when she cannot visit with her mother.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. No other questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Cardenas.
Thank you. Talking about these barriers to the parenting times, the agency was willing at one point to transport Miss Jones to Saginaw, correct?
Yes, that was prior to me taking over the case, but yes, that was a previous plan.
Okay. But that had to be stopped because it wasn't considered safe for the transporters, caseworkers to do so, correct?
That is correct.
And so that's why it's like, that was the decision to move them back to Grand Rapids.
There was a stint where the agency was buying bus tickets for Miss Jones to go to Saginaw and then stay overnight and to have visits and then take the bus back to Grand Rapids. But there are a number of concerns with that ended up resulting in the visits going back to Grand Rapids.
Okay. But basically that was why it was stopped for the agency to transport, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the foster parent, Miss Lindsay Watley, was willing to transport and did supervise some visits as well, correct?
In Saginaw, yes.
Okay. However, at this point, she's no longer willing to do that because Miss Jones was aggressive with her and her family, correct?
That is correct.
To the point that she even threatened to crash the car when Miss Jones was the passenger in the car. Miss Lindsay Watley was driving. The children were in the backseat of the car.
Yes, ma'am. That was during the last reporting period. I think the biggest concern this reporting period was with that police involvement during that end of that family time.
Okay. But I mean, that's why this foster parent, those relatives are no longer willing to supervise Miss Jones' parenting times.
Correct.
Um, have you explored guardianship with Miss Lindsay Watley?
I've not had an official conversation with her. I do know she has made comments to me that she would be willing to that type of an arrangement. But we haven't had like an official conversation regarding that.
Okay. Because at this point, both children have lived with the foster parent for, I mean, Miss Lindsay Watley is the grandparent to EG, correct?
Correct.
And had both EG and SC for a significant amount of time of their lives, correct?
Correct.
They're both very bonded to her.
Yes, ma'am.
She's stable, has housing, been working full time, has actually changed her job to make it easier for her to work with Miss Jones on parenting times and such.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has throughout been willing to transport, it has even still been working to transport towards Grand Rapids, was willing to come once a month to facilitate those parenting times.
Correct. And the weeks that she does not drive all the way to Grand Rapids, she's willing to meet staff halfway from Saginaw.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Your Honor, I have no more questions.
Thank you. Ms. Tompkins.
No questions on behalf of the unknown father.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ortega, any follow-up?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Lowry, any follow-up?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Any witnesses, any more witnesses, Ms. Ortega?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Lowry, any witnesses or evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Cardenas?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Tompkins?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Statements, Ms. Ortega?
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe that the recommendations of the agency are appropriate. I would ask that the court set a dual goal. I think that today is a PPH hearing to where we could have a goal change, a dual goal of guardianship and reunification at this time, and then set the next hearing for PPH to see if we need a further goal change. I understand the agency's position of trying to give Ms. Jones a little more time to address whether there's some medication that could help with the emotional stability, that the dysregulation that she exhibits is still very highly concerning. And so if that's not addressed, I don't even know with employment and housing if that would even be appropriate to still return without addressing that emotional dysregulation. It's pretty much witnessed by everyone that works with her in the case, and that's unfortunate. But to allow her that time to see if something more or some more in-depth counseling would be helpful. I understand that position of the agency, but at the same time, these children have been in care. Although they've been back to Miss Jones, it's been a significant amount of time, and EG has been primarily out of Miss Jones' care for a lot of his life, and with the foster parent or with his father. And so I think we need to move towards something, and guardianships also take a while. And so I think changing to that dual goal today would be helpful for the family to get direction either way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lowry?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I would ask that the court continue the reunification goal. Ms. Jones has been involved with the court for a long time. She's it's a lot, right? I mean, she's working with service providers. I think she's working with her counselor, Miss Cammie Becker at the Y, and she, feels supported by her, feels respected. I think the agency's making a lot of efforts to try and make this work, but unfortunately, the distance has caused a barrier in being able to kind of easily make decisions and not have to have things changed very quickly because of the amount of plans it takes to get the children here and the impact on them. But I think Ms. Jones she's doing the counseling, which is what we've asked her to do. I think she's making more progress than I've had as far as housing. And as soon as she gets the birth certificate, which should be sent out soon, hopefully, I think she's pretty optimistic that housing could be secured relatively soon here, at least within the next 3 months is her goal. But, right now there's a lot of instability in her life. She's trying to work. She's taking jobs whenever she can. She is going to doing interviews. She reports back that she's not even hearing back from interviews, which is frustrating. And so right now, each day she's kind of got a lot to do. She's got to figure out where she's going. She has no transportation, so she has to take busing. So she's got a lot going on every day. And so when there's changes to schedules, it impacts a lot of things in her life where it might not impact other people the same way just because of her circumstances. And that's frustrating for her. I think this has been a long emotional road, and unfortunately, she's getting frustrated, but she loves her kids. From what I've heard, those kids are bonded to her. They've been upset when visits had to be canceled, just as she's upset. So I think the continued goal of reunification, and hopefully we see some increased progress over the next 3 months, especially as other options such as DBT and medications may be pursued. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cardenas.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, my client does agree with Ms. Ortega and looking further into maybe exploring the guardianship option. I think at this point we've had communication. He's very concerned for his children, the well-being of his children. He's able to have, the communication, the children, EG. But also I know SC is in the home, and it's not that he does not have any contact with her. So he would support the dual order for guardianship and reunification. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tompkins?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no position for unknown father at this time.
Great, thank you. The court finds that the lawyer guardian ad litem has complied with the requirements of the statute, that returning these children to a parent today would cause a substantial risk of harm to their life, physical health, or mental well-being, that the children should not be returned to a parent today, that both of these children have been in foster care for 15 of the most recent 22 months, and the agency should not initiate proceedings to terminate parental rights to the children because the children are placed with a relative and guardianship has not yet been explored. That reasonable efforts have been made to preserve, reunify the family, make it possible for the children to safely return home, that those reasonable efforts for reunification be continued, that in accordance with the statute, progress towards alleviating or mitigating the conditions that cause the children to be placed or remain in temporary foster care has not been made by any of the parents, that the children's continued placement is necessary and appropriate, is meeting their needs, that the needs of these children can be met in a foster family home, that reasonable efforts have been made to finalize the court-approved permanency plan of return to a parent, that permanency planning goal is no longer appropriate and shall be concurrent reunification and guardianship. And I'll just state for the record, I have also been involved in this case since the beginning. These children have lacked permanency since September of 2022. They've spent a significant amount of their life in foster care, or lives in foster care, and they need permanency. And these children were returned briefly to mother, and that did not work out, and then they were back in foster care. So we do need to pursue a plan that provides permanency here. That the Department Foster Home or Institutional Placement has followed the reasonable and prudent parenting standard, and these children have had regular opportunities to engage in age or developmentally appropriate activities. The siblings are in joint placement. The court orders that these children continue in a protective and temporary custody of the court, continue their placement with the Department for Care and Supervision. That the adjudicated respondents comply with and benefit from the case service plan, that all parents sign any and all necessary releases. The parenting time, Mr. Gregory, is to be supervised until further order of the court. The parenting times of Ms. Jones is at the discretion of the agency to allow unsupervised or supervised parenting time by its designee. I'll continue the attorneys in this matter. And Ms. Gibson, do we have a date for our next permanency planning hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, August 5 from 9 to 10.
Any conflicts with that date or time?
The only thing I have that day is one hearing at 9:30, so.
Oh, right in the middle.
No problem. One moment. We could do the afternoon from 2 to 3, August 5.
Any conflicts with that time?
You said
Okay,
2 to 3 p.m.
correct.
And then also, would I be able to get a breakout room with my client and Miss Lindsay Watley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Present in the virtual courtroom, we have Mother Diamond Jones. We have her attorney, Jessica Lowry. We have Stephanie Card. No, we have. Do we have Stephanie Card? Yeah, no.
I'm
Who's
here for
for-
Stephanie.
All right, we have Stacy Van Dyken for Stephanie Cardenas. Let's see, we have Mr. Barry, who's present. And we also have Mr. Gregory, who's present. The children's attorney, Ms. Ortega, and various agency workers, and Ms. Ortega.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Cassandra Helms.
Ma'am.
Right. And at this time, Your Honor, I'd move to admit 4 exhibits.
All right.
Exhibit 1 would be the case service plan and 2 parent agency treatment plans dated July 10 of 2025.
Any objection?
No objection.
No, Your Honor.
No.
Okay, submitted.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 are 3 YWCA reports dated May 6, 2025, May 30th, 2025, and July 7, 2025.
No objection.
No objection.
No.
All right, admitted.
Thank you. Exhibit 3 is parenting time specialist report dated June 29 of 2025.
No
Any
objection.
objection?
No objection.
All right, it's admitted.
And exhibit 4, a therapy report for EG dated July 22, 2025.
Any objection?
No objection.
No, Your
All right, that's admissible.
Thank you. Ms. Helms, we'll start with the children. I'll start with EG. How is he doing?
EG is overall doing very well in his placement. He's engaging in counseling and really getting ready for school to start.
Okay. And he is attending therapy at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is that going?
Overall, it's going well. His therapist, Molly Ferguson, through Family, Children and Family Services of Saginaw, reports he's a little guarded in his play therapy, but she's working with him. They meet on a bi-weekly basis, so they're still building a rapport, and that's going well so far.
Okay. And the children, have they had trauma assessments? Do you know?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so there's probably not any trauma piece to his therapy at this point.
They are working through, EG has reported having some night terrors and things that happen at night. So they're like working through that, but nothing like specific.
Okay. And he attended school last year, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I know we had some issues getting him enrolled, but did he complete this school year and move up to the next grade?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. And is he up to date on his medical and dental?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other specific needs that you can identify for EG right now?
Not at this time.
Do you know if he is able to engage in appropriate activities for a child his age?
Yes, and I know that Mr. Gregory has reported he really wants EG to get into some sports this fall, so that is a discussion I'll have with the caregiver about that.
Okay. And EG does have some visits with his father, correct?
Yes, the caregiver is cleared to bring EG to, they try to do monthly visits. There was an issue a couple of weeks ago when they wouldn't accept a copy of his birth certificate, which was odd. They've done in-person visits with no issues before, so we're really looking into that. But they do have like around 2 to 3 phone calls per week.
Okay. And those seem to be helpful for EG?
Yes, ma'am.
Moving on to SC, how is she doing?
She's doing very well.
And she's up to date on her medical and dental?
Yes, ma'am.
Last time we were here, I believe there was an order for her to begin therapy as well. Has that started?
Not at this time. There's been some struggles with SC regarding counseling. She did not have the same Medicaid as EG, so I had to get that switched over, but she wasn't able to get that switched until June. So I thought it was going to be activated, but then it wasn't going to be activated, switched over until July. And then when that happened, there was no one accepting at the Children and Family Services of Saginaw. There was no one accepting her age for play therapy. So she is on a wait list and we're trying to get her in, but there's just been a lot of roadblocks in that.
And to your knowledge, has she been able to engage in appropriate activities for a child her age?
Yes, ma'am.
She was not enrolled in full-time school last year, correct?
No, she attended a structured daycare and the plan is for her to attend preschool this fall.
Okay. Do you know, I know we can't get her into therapy quite yet. Are there any significant concerns related to that, or is therapy just more of a helpful piece for her at this point?
I think overall, SC does not have major like trauma behaviors that we're seeing in the home. I do think that she would benefit from that service, and so we are exploring options. Saginaw doesn't have a lot of play therapists in the area, and so as the children transition with the caregiver to Grand Rapids, I do feel like there was more opportunities for play therapy for EG and SC.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question to kind of transition into some newer news. Can you tell the court about a planned move for the family?
Yes, so the caregiver is working to relocate to the Grand Rapids area. She has obtained employment and is working to obtain housing. There's been some roadblocks in housing in Grand Rapids, as the court's aware of. So really I've sent the caregiver a lot of resources for private landlords, that type of thing. And the hope is that she move in the next couple of weeks, especially with school starting. We want to make sure that we get the kids enrolled. And then services transitioned over. So that is in the works. The caregiver's lease is up at the end of August. So it is a little bit of a time crunch. We've had lots of conversations about that move, but so far things are going smooth.
Okay, so this sounds like it is a realistic plan and something that is going to be happening pretty soon here, hopefully before September 1. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have the kids been told of this transition?
I guess I haven't had direct conversations with them. I know they have been coming with the caregiver to Grand Rapids when she's been, looking for employment and that type of thing, which have worked well with family times on Mondays. But I assume they're kind of in the know of kind of what's going on that's age appropriate for them to be aware of.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Miss Jones, how has she been doing in her progress in therapy?
She was engaging really well at the beginning of the reporting period, and then she did start being less consistent and engaging. She does have a really strong relationship with her therapist through YWCA. There was a gap where she didn't. She engaged in counseling on June 2, and then she didn't engage until July 11. So that was a concern. I have pretty consistent communication with her therapist and making sure she's having appropriate goals, and that's going well. But that gap in counseling is definitely a concern.
At one point, there had been some discussion about maybe a psychiatry appointment. Do you know if that has been explored at all?
Ms. Jones was not open with me about that, but I did inquire with her therapist regarding DBT, which was a referral or a recommendation from her counselor and psychiatrist recommendation, and I didn't really hear if anything actually came to fruition through that. I can get further clarification. I know there was an issue with Ms. Jones's insurance in getting into DBT. Ms. Jones was not open to providing me her insurance information for me to help assist in that area.
Okay, because I know one of the major issues at this point is on the emotional stability. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and to kind of gauge how Miss Jones can regulate her emotions more effectively when she's with the kids. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is related to that need, are there any other services other than therapy at this point, and what you've just described was recommended, any other services that are offered to Miss Jones?
Yes, she is engaging in our parenting time specialist program, and she has since June 16 been engaging in that program with our supervisor of that program, and while Ms. Jones hasn't been consistent in meeting with that service provider. That is a service that's offered to her and she would benefit from.
Okay. Parenting skills is another need at this point.
Yes, ma'am.
And that same service, the parenting time specialist, that would be one service you're offering to address that.
Yes, ma'am.
How is that? You mentioned a little like there's been inconsistent engagement. Overall, how is that program going for Ms. Jones?
I would say she's not having the full benefit from that program, as the requirement of that program is that she meets with the parent support specialist before and after parenting times or family times in order to make sure that she has a plan for family times and can discuss things that went well or things she can work on. We did have a TDM on 7/29 to discuss family time specifically. And I know that the parent support supervisor said during that meeting that she's going to start having Friday phone calls with Ms. Jones so that they can have those meetings. As Ms. Jones reported, she had a busy schedule and wasn't sure if she could add that around her visit.
Okay. Has the parenting time specialist raised any concerns?
Yes, she has shared that Ms. Jones does become escalated during family times, which then makes EG and SC very dysregulated and upset, especially SC. She'll become crying and unconsolable, really. And then the parenting time specialist really wants to work with Ms. Jones on how to approach those situations so that she can help regulate herself and her children.
Okay. Are these parenting times happening in the community?
For the most part, they're happening at the agency. They have had a couple of family times in the community at parks, but for the most part, they're at the agency.
Okay. Related to parenting skills, are there any other services that you're offering, Ms. Jones?
Not at this time. We did discuss her retaking parenting after trauma. That's something Ms. Jones historically has brought up doing. And so I know there's a class that's going on right now, and I have to make sure that works with Ms. Jones's work schedule.
Okay. Again, another segue. My next, I was going to hit employment, and that has been a barrier. What is her employment situation now?
Yes, she has reported to me that she is employed at an in-home care organization. I'm not exactly sure of the name of that. I haven't received a pay stub. She has provided me with her schedule. It sounds like her schedule kind of changes a little bit week to week. She can kind of pick up different hours. And so I haven't really gotten a clear understanding of who it's through or what that can look like. But she has reported consistently that she is employed.
Okay. When's the last time you've asked her for a pay stub to verify that she's actually working?
I don't recall that specific date, but I want to say it was in June or July.
Okay. And she still has yet to provide you with a pay stub?
Correct.
Okay. But she does continually discuss that she has a busy schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anything else? Is she going to school or anything that would be part of her busy schedule other than employment?
She has reported wanting to get into a GED program, but has not reported that she's currently in one. No.
All right. What about housing? Sounds like there is a new update on housing.
Yes, she did sign a lease through Breton Groves. That was just last week on 7/31. That was through a community rebuilders program. So I am hoping to go out to Ms. Jones' home to see that living space, verify its appropriateness. But that is a relatively new development.
Do you know if she has a move-in date yet?
I believe she has moved in already.
Okay. And just for sake of time, if it's okay with Attorney Lowry, I move to admit that lease is Exhibit 5.
Thank you.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted.
Thank you. And so you still have yet to go there, you said, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's part of Community Rebuilders. Do you know if that is then she'll have assistance with her rent?
I have not had a chance to look fully into that lease. I do know that it's for a year, but I would, if it's through Community Rebuilders, I would have the assumption that they are assisting in some manner with that.
Okay. Let me move on to parenting times, because that seems to be the kind of the biggest issue in this matter from moving forward, and we're at a PPH hearing. So parenting times with Ms. Jones, how are those going?
They are a struggle from time to time. As I previously stated, Ms. Jones will become dysregulated, which will then dysregulate SC and EG. So that's what that parenting time specialist program is working with Ms. Jones to help with those times.
Okay, can you give the court some examples of the struggles that are still occurring?
Yes, there was an incident at a park where Miss Jones was screaming at SC and EG that she was embarrassed by them, and they were embarrassing her at the park because they were becoming upset with Miss Jones. There was another incident at the agency where SC was not engaging in the manner that Miss Jones wanted her to, and she became upset, and Miss Jones would leave her in a room by herself so that she could calm down, despite SC asking for affection and a hug to help calm down. There's just several different things that come up that it doesn't feel like Miss Jones has the skills to help regulate herself to then in turn help regulate the kids. There was also an incident when EG was dropped off back to the caregiver after a family time that he reported that his mom is so mean to him. And when no one acknowledged that comment, he said it again. And so that was a large concern as well, that they're picking up on those things. So definitely things that need to be addressed. And that was definitely discussed during our TDM last week.
So it doesn't seem to have been much progress in this area, if any, since the last reporting period.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Jones really wants unsupervised time. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you been able to have discussions with her as to why that's still not occurring?
Yes, that's what we discussed during the TDM, which was led by a WMPC third party. And I feel like it was a very productive meeting, opposed to other FTMs we've had. And we discussed very clear action steps for Ms. Jones to build this area and skills. And so the hope is to have another TDM at the end of August, beginning of September, to discuss more family times to see if there has been improvements. But it does seem like we have some very intentional steps in place.
Okay, so she is well aware of the steps she needs to take to get onto a plan to have the unsupervised time.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Moving on to Mr. Gregory. Has he been communicative with the agency?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. And we've already discussed he sees his son quite regularly, or he at least talks to his son quite regularly.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any services that you would like to see him participating in?
Mr. Gregory really goes out of his way to find services for himself, and I just want to commend that. He is engaging in lots of programs while he's incarcerated. I have been finally cleared to meet with him, so we have had 2 virtual visits, which have been very productive. So we had one in June and one in July, and he even opened up that he's going to be starting a school program in January. He's very excited about for some business management and machine trade. I'm not fully understand that part of the program, but he engages with all the articles I send him, and provides input on anything he would like to have homework on, and overall he's engaging in the best possible way he can.
Okay, so he is at this point following all recommendations from the agency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any idea of a release date for Mr. Gregory?
His earliest release date is November of 2027.
Okay. And I am so sorry, I don't have my notes. SC, her father's not deceased, correct? He's just unknown at this time?
Correct.
Okay. Any efforts to locate SC's father?
We still don't have any names or leads on who SC's father is, and so we're kind of at a standstill in trying to locate him. If there are any names provided, I'm willing to explore those and have DNA testing if we are able to obtain communication. But at this time, really kind of stuck with no names or leads.
Okay. And she has not had any contact with a putative father's family?
No.
Okay. And she really looks at Mr. Gregory's family as her family. Is that correct?
Yes, and she even has made comments about Mr. Gregory being like a father figure to her, and has reported EG and SC will get in arguments because EG will talk about his father, and she'll be like, "That's my dad too," and he'll have to correct her. So it's quite cute.
Okay. And she also sees EG's grandma as her grandma?
Yes, she calls her Grandma Tina.
All right, thank you. At this point, would you, do you believe that return of the children would lead to substantial risk of harm for them if they were to go back, with a parent today?
Yes, ma'am.
Is termination of parental rights in their best interest at this time?
No, ma'am.
What's your recommendation?
It is respectfully recommended that EG and SC remain temporary court wards and be placed with an appropriate relative, fictive kin, or licensed foster home, that their permanency goals remain to be reunification and guardianship, that Ms. Jones and Mr. Gregory participate and benefit from their parent agency treatment plans, that Ms. Jones' parenting times be supervised or unsupervised at the discretion of the agency, that Mr. Gregory's parenting times be supervised, and that this matter be reviewed in 90 days.
Okay, two questions that I failed to address that I should. For guardianship purposes, what would that look like? Should guardianship proceedings move forward? The timeline on that.
Yes, so the caregiver is working to get licensed. It's a bit of a standstill with her moving. We weren't going to get her license in Saginaw if we would have to re-update that in Grand Rapids. So once she gets into a permanent place in Grand Rapids, the licensor is ready to start that process. Based on how EG and SC are funded, they do need to be in the home for 6 months past licensure going through so that we could do a subsidized guardianship. And so there have been several conversations with the caregiver regarding this.
Okay, and the caregiver is still willing to go into a guardianship?
Yes, ma'am. She's willing to do any permanent option that is in the best interest of EG and SC.
Okay, thank you. And then just hitting on the counseling for SC, at this point, your intention is to find a counselor in Grand Rapids, given that they're moving soon, instead of continue to pursue someone in Saginaw. Is that correct?
Yes, with the hope for them to move in the very near future. I have put some feelers out for counseling for both children to get them engaged in play therapy as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just some questions back to EG, and we were talking about counseling. Are you able to provide Ms. Jones with updates on EG's counseling? I don't believe she's received any updates.
Yes, I can discuss that with her for sure. She's been difficult to get a hold of to meet with, but yes, I can talk with her about that.
Okay. And is she able to also directly communicate with the therapist as far as how he's doing with making progress or whatnot? I guess assuming he does or doesn't continue with this therapist.
Yeah, I can see to make sure she's on the approved list to have that communication, but yeah, it's going to be transitioning to a Grand Rapids area, but I'll ensure she has communication with them.
Okay. All right. And so I guess to follow up on that, the issue of enrolling the children in school, do we know where they're going to be enrolled in school?
Not at this time. With that transition happening, I'm not sure what district they're going to be in Grand Rapids. And so as soon as that housing is set in stone, I will work with the caregiver to get them enrolled as soon as possible.
All right. And did Miss Jones have some concerns about SC starting school, about her not being there when SC would be starting school that she expressed in the TDM?
Yes, she expressed that she did not want SC to start kindergarten until she was in her care. And based on SC's age, she should be able to engage in preschool. So the agency doesn't have any concerns with that at this point.
So I think there needs to be another conversation because Ms. Jones thinks that SC would be going to kindergarten, but the agency's looking, or her placement's looking to put her in preschool for an additional year.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we can follow up on that conversation once we have more specifics.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Ms. Jones has been working with community rebuilders and has secured an apartment.
Yes,
Correct?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So that's a pretty big deal for her. And she's moved into the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you haven't been there yet, but she just moved in and you're going to go view the home?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so it sounds like that was kind of a big piece here as far as having a home to be able to return EG and SC to. So that has been a big focus for Miss Jones. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is the agency also able to help her if she needs any assistance with any just home needs, such as beds for the kids or so forth?
Yes, I know Miss Jones reached out to me about that. I did inquire with our program manager, and she reported I needed to view the apartment before we could explore giving any assistance. So
Okay.
I have reached out to Miss Jones about that.
Okay. All right, great. I just don't want those things to be additional barriers if it's something that we can get assistance with from the agency. But all right, I'm glad she's reached out about that. And so it sounds like as far as employment, you are asking for pay stub, not just a schedule.
Yes, I would like a pay stub simply because it will be that verification of employment, but also verification of income. So I know what type of income Miss Jones is receiving.
Okay. And all right. But it's been at least a couple months since you've requested that from her.
Like I said, I don't recall the exact date of the last time I requested that from her, but yeah, I do know it's been some time that she's provided that.
Okay, but she did provide you at least with a schedule just to kind of show her shifts.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so that kind of segues into the counseling. I know you mentioned there was a gap in counseling. Was that around the time that visits were moved from Fridays to Mondays when Miss Jones works and also had her counseling appointments?
I do know it was around the same time. I did clarify with her counselor before those family times changed to ensure that she could still accommodate Miss Jones in her schedule. And she didn't have any issues with that. And she said she had discussed that with Miss Jones as well.
Okay, but it required a change in the schedule for Miss Jones because she would work until 2, normally would go to counseling, I think at like 3 or 3:30, and then the parenting times were going to be at 4:30, if I have it right. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she doesn't have transportation, so getting to all these places is not a super easy thing for her to do or to juggle.
Correct.
All right, so there was a period of time where the counseling had to be rescheduled to a different day because it wasn't going to fit with the parenting time.
Yes, and that was all a plan put in place before that change officially happened.
But Miss Jones did not want her parenting times to move from Friday to Monday. Is that correct?
Correct. She did. However, the agency was no longer to accommodate Friday family times, and so that's what also played a role in that switch.
All right. So, they had been on Fridays, and that was when Miss Jones didn't have to work, and it was a good day for the visits, and they were moved to Mondays, which is when she already had work and her counseling. And so counseling needed to get moved to a new date.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. All right. So, but she's maintained contact with her therapist and has a good relationship with her. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure what her attendance has been in July. I only know of one date she did attend, but I do know she has a strong relationship with her therapist. Yes.
Okay. And her therapist is willing to work with her. And do you know if they've even talked about her adding DBT into their sessions?
Not in the last update that I received from her. She did not indicate about DBT. It doesn't sound like she herself can do DBT. I don't think she's trained in that. And so she did have some resources and ability to refer for that. And so that's the discussion that I had with the therapist.
Okay. And can you just specifically follow up with her to see if she did mention that she would incorporate DBT therapies into her sessions with Miss Jones, or if she really has to go somewhere different?
It was my understanding.
Screenshot over.
It was my understanding based on what Ms. Becker reported to me that she would make a referral or recommendation, like that she wasn't qualified to do DBT herself.
Okay. All right. But if she's reported something different to Miss Jones, can you just clarify that so everybody can be on the same page about what the expectation would be?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Miss Jones has attended every single parenting time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And some of the concerns that were noted, there's also positives. Would you agree, such as working through breathing exercises with SC, saying affirmations with SC? There's positive actions as well.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Miss Jones only gets 2 hours a week with the kids.
At this time, yes.
So if she's trying to also, incorporate some of the things she wants to change with the children as far as behaviors or things that are inappropriate, they're 4 and 6, she has to fit that discipline in her 2 hours that she gets with the children once a week.
Yes.
All right. So would you agree that that's pretty hard if you're trying to kind of correct your 4 and 6-year-old as well as, have a fun family visit and so forth, incorporate everything into 2 hours a week?
I do feel like it is tight, but is a time to be able to apply those skills. I do know there's that barrier of the kids living 2 hours away right now, but with the plan with them moving to Grand Rapids, we did discuss at that TDM adding an additional day. The hope is to have that start as soon as they move to Grand Rapids. I've been in communication with the parenting time specialist to incorporate that. So that has been a discussion.
Okay. And Miss Jones has requested the children be moved from Saginaw to Grand Rapids for quite a long time now, for several months at least at a minimum, so that she could continue to build her parenting times, get expanded time, and so forth. And because of the distance the children have had to travel and school and so forth, that has not been able to occur. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And she did provide a relative who had been, or I guess, I don't know if it's a relative, but a very close family friend who had been supervising that was also going to be moving into Grand Rapids that was willing to care for the children.
Yes, I lost communication with that individual. I had communication with her, and then she reported she wasn't able to help assist with supervising anymore. And then she never reached back out to me when she established herself in Grand Rapids, and so that kind of fell off as an option.
All right. But with the expectation that the children's placement will be moving to Grand Rapids within the next 3 or 4 weeks, would you look to expand parenting times for Miss Jones, given that she's achieved housing at this point and working through the barrier of emotional stability?
Yes, the plan is to at least add another hour visit.
Okay. And that was part of our TDM, which was in the next 3 weeks to expand parenting time for Miss Jones.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you know if there's been any Friday morning phone calls yet?
I do know that they did not happen on Friday this past week, which would have been the first one. I talked to the parenting specialist about that. It does sound like it was like an error in scheduling purposes, but the hope is for that to happen this week.
Okay. Going forward, what is the main thing that you're hoping to see from Miss Jones?
I think there's a couple things that Miss Jones can really focus on now that she has that housing established, is engaging consistently with her counselor and the family time specialist to work on her parenting skills. I think they both go hand in hand with that stability in parenting times, but also in Miss Jones' life in general.
All right. And hopefully with increased parenting time, there'll be a better ability to kind of see interactions with the children as well. And also that's been a constant frustration of Miss Jones, is the limited amount of time that she's been able to have with her children.
Yes, that has been her narrative, yes.
And it sounds like what you're saying, even considering a guardianship as a possible long-term goal here, you're still looking at a minimum of 6 months plus the time of licensure. So let's just say another 2 months, at least 8 months would be the shortest time frame that could be achieved.
Potentially, yes.
Well, at least 6 months, and we're not even licensed currently, and we don't even have a home to license, correct?
Yep.
All right. So Miss Jones has secured housing for the children. The children are included on the lease and there's room for them.
I have not viewed the home, so I'm not sure if there's room for them, but I know that was what Ms. Jones was trying to acquire.
All right. And has employment. She's also been able to always get additional hours through the Very Able app as well. Has she shown you that before?
No, ma'am, she has not.
Okay. All right. And she's attended every single parenting time with her children.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, and just to follow up, because Ms. Jones did send me a screenshot from her counselor, will you speak with Ms. Becker as far as if she did say that she would incorporate DBT into her sessions?
Yes, I can inquire with her, yes.
Okay, and I'll have Ms. Jones send you that as well. All right. And will there be an additional FTM just to discuss the schooling once we have identified home or placement for the children here in Grand Rapids?
The plan is to have a TDM at the end of August. What specifically are you referring to for schooling? I guess I'm not sure.
Just like where the children would be going to school and making sure that Ms. Jones is included in those conversations.
Yes, I will make sure she's updated on that.
All right. Do you foresee being able to move to unsupervised visits in the next 3 months now that we have housing and consistent parenting time?
I feel like there are things that Ms. Jones needs to continue to work on in order for us to move to unsupervised, and that was discussed during the TDM. So I don't know if I can give a timeline. It all really depends on how those family times go in the next few weeks or several weeks.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Van Dyken.
Thank you. Ms. Helms, other than his engagement with what's offered at the prison, are you sending him any homework assignments?
Yes, I am sending him at least one article a month.
Okay. And he's completing those and returning those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Barry.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Ortega.
No questions. Thank you.
I have one. I noted in my notes from the last hearing that both children were going to be referred for trauma assessments, and it sounded like that wasn't done, or that the referral, maybe my notes are wrong. So I want to check on that.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head where that landed. And I actually don't recall, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Okay, because I heard you say today that you didn't believe they needed them at this point.
I'm sorry, I don't really recall. I do know that I've done other referrals for other cases and I can't really keep them all straight at this point, so I'm sorry.
Okay. And you don't have any notes you can look at?
I can look 1 second.
Okay.
I am not finding anything, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, my notes may be wrong. It might have been from a while ago when I just did take it off. So, Ms. Ortega, any follow-up to that question?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Lowry?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Van Dyken?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Any further witnesses, Ms. Ortega?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any witnesses, Ms. Lowry?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Ms. Van Dyken?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barry, same question?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Statements, Ms. Ortega?
Thank you, Your Honor. You were kind of hitting it. I was going to ask that the children do. I recall at the last hearing that we mentioned that trauma assessments would be helpful for the children. And so I do recall, but I don't believe there was an order. It was in the order that they should be referred. So I would request it again today that the children do engage. I know the waiting lists on those are long, and if they're going to be here in Grand Rapids, maybe the resources here will be a little better than in Saginaw. So I find it concerning that the request is to expand time and move to unsupervised time when the times that are occurring, there are still still bad behavior on mom's part, and dysregulated behavior. And so I don't know why the expectation would be that more time, she would be able to keep her emotions under control, given that the minimum time she has, she doesn't. And so it's that lack of insight that it's always been my concern. That being said, I think there are areas where there's been some progress, and I think housing is great that she obtained housing, that there will be somewhere for the children if she's able to address this emotional stability piece. I really encourage that she takes the opportunity to have any resource, psychiatry referral, DBT referral, anything, because I think that's the one main thing that hinders her from reunification. I think she can be resourceful. I would like to see for pay stubs to be provided for all of July. It sounds like she should have been working all of July to just verify that what she's saying is truthful to the agency. But I agree with the agency. I don't think termination is in the best interest of the children. I think EG has a great relationship with his father. I know his father can't care for him right now, but I don't think terminating that parental relationship would be in his best interest, given that where he's placed right now. And I think that Miss Jones, given the fact that for guardianship, we do have to wait at least 6 to 8 months. I think that there's a time period here for Miss Jones to really get it in gear. If she has employment, she does have housing, to work on this emotional instability, to dive in on her counseling and any other resources, like I said. So I support the recommendations. I still don't support unsupervised time, but if she follows the plan, the outline that the agency has put before her to get to that time, I would have no objections to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, we support the continued goal of reunification only. Obviously, it's been outlined that a guardianship is going to take several months. I mean, I think 6 to 8 months is the very minimum that would be even a possibility. Ms. Jones has worked super hard to get housing. She's worked with community rebuilders, and so and has secured that, is in the housing, has provided a lease. So that has been a huge step for her. Obviously, this case has been going on for a very long time, as the court is aware. So unfortunately, you know, Ms. Jones patience is wearing thin, but she's doing everything that she can to work with the agency. Every statement is being, you know, written down in every parenting time. So there's positives that just don't get mentioned, which is frustrating to Ms. Jones. Sure, there's things that she's working on. She's at every parenting time. She wants to be reunited with her children. She's getting jobs. She gets a job, and then, you know, a parenting time changes from Fridays to a day where now she has to work all day and then get to parenting time, without regard really to, you know, what that takes for her to switch things around. And she's juggling a lot, but she's willing to do it. I think it's just, it's testing her. She has a great relationship with her counselor. And so, you know, I think relies on that, but it's hard when things get changed. And it looks like we're looking at another change, which obviously her request has been for the children to be moved back to Grand Rapids for a long time, because it's been very difficult to make progress and move forward when they are so far away, and it involves travel and resources from the agency, and when there's school schedules and so forth. So, you know, I think she's under the microscope with everything that's going on, but she's doing the things that need to happen. And just like there's negatives, there need to be positives. Ms. Jones, it sounds like, has provided some pay stubs too. She just sent me some as well. So I think there's some things that just need to be followed up on, so that there's accurate information, because that's very frustrating for her when she feels like accurate information isn't being provided. So, but she wants to reunify with her children, and so I would ask the court follow the recommendations towards reunification and allow the agency to have the discretion to, hopefully once her kids are here, expand on her parenting time, because 2 hours is just, it's not really enough when you've been working on this case, had your children reunified, lost housing, lost your children, and here we are again. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Van Dyken.
As the recommendations to Mr. Gregory, I think they're appropriate, Your Honor, and ask the court to adopt the same.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Ortega, did you say that you saw the children?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I did not say that, but I did have a chance to visit with the children. They are doing very well. And they're extremely cute. Not very talkative, so I don't get a handle on their preference. I think they're too young anyway, but I did have a chance to visit with them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The court finds that the lawyer guardian ad litem has complied with the requirements of the statute. That returning these children to a parent today would cause a substantial risk of harm to the children's life, physical health, or mental well-being. That they should not be returned to a parent today. The agency should not. Actually, no, it'd be the children have been in foster care for 15 of the most recent 22 months, and the agency should not initiate proceedings to terminate parental rights to the children for the compelling reason that they are placed with a relative and that guardianship is a concurrent plan. Also, they have really both of them have a strong bond to Mr. Gregory. That reasonable efforts have been made to preserve and reunify the family, make it possible for these children to safely return home, that those reasonable efforts for reunification be continued. That in accordance with the statute, progress towards alleviating or mitigating the conditions that cause the children to be placed or remain in temporary foster care has not been made by either parent or the unknown father of SC. That the children's continued placement is necessary and appropriate, is meeting their needs. That the needs of these children can be met in a foster family home. That reasonable efforts have been made to finalize the court-approved permanency plan of legal guardianship and return to a parent. That the permanency planning goal remains appropriate. That the foster home has followed the reasonable and prudent parenting standard, and that the children have had regular opportunities to engage in age or developmentally appropriate activities. The siblings are in a joint placement. The court orders that the children continue in the protective and temporary custody of the court, continue their placement with the Department for Care and Supervision. That the adjudicated respondents, Mr. Gregory, Ms. Jones, and the unknown father comply with and benefit from the case service plan. And in addition, Ms. Jones is to provide all of July's pay stubs to the agency within 7 days. The parenting time of Mr. Gregory is to be supervised until further order of the court. The parenting times of Ms. Jones is at the discretion of the agency to allow unsupervised or supervised parenting time by its designee. That continue the attorneys in this matter. And Ms. Van Oller, do you have a date for our next review hearing?
Yes, Wednesday, October 8th at 11 a.m. via Zoom.
Any conflicts with that date or time?
That works.
All right. Thank you very much. And